And we actually did load in this time. In the right, we have our pink Terran unit.
In the bottom left, we have the blue Terran, BYOBKenobi. These are also two platinum players playing against each other as well.
Yeah, this is a Group B game. After a little bit of technical difficulties were ironed out, we and just to point out, this is just consistent in the stream, and everyone knows where I'm coming from on this one. If there's anything besides GLHF, poise yourself for cheese. That's always my standard. If someone says, "Hello, good sir, I hope you've had a wonderful day. I'm looking forward to playing some StarCraft," and I'm like, "Okay, put a bunker in my main." I'm like,
no. Like I've had games where I start off on ladder, and like the guy just says like "fuck you" right away. Like I'm like GLHF, he's like "fuck you," and I'm like, "All right, guess I'm gonna all in this game."
Oh yeah, and that's it's weird because when you're new to the game, you see that GLHF kind of as bullshit. You're like, okay, do you really want me to have good luck and have fun? Like, do you?
Like it's even worse because I say like GG when I'm doing GLHF, so people like think it's like BM or some shit. They're like,
yeah.
"Oh, you're arrogant" or something. I'm like, "No, dude, StarCraft's a good game. I don't care whether I win or lose."
Yeah, that's the thing. Like it has this community has its own norms, and until you get used to them, like I don't typically in any kind of multiplayer game, I have no interest in talking to anybody. But it's you have to say something. It keeps everyone. It's just the way things work here, and until everyone learns that, you end up with those situations where like in your first 50, 100 games, you're gonna go, "Good luck, have fun," and he's gonna be like, "Fuck you." Shut the fuck up! I don't want to talk to you. Kill yourself, like
it
all that kind of shit.
It seems like every time that happens to me, it's always a Protoss player who does that to me too.
Well, yeah, they're just bad people. But here we're gonna see the first divergence in the builds. It looks like the BYOBKenobi is going for his second barracks.
He also went gas first. Important to note as well. I believe he did go gas first.
Well, if he went gas first, they both did. Their gas finished at almost exactly the same time.
Never mind. Yeah, I don't know what I'm talking about.
Well, it's very possible. No. I was more concerned with the GLHF conversation than I was with with the actual game. But it looks like we're going to be seeing something. This looks like the beginnings of a 1-1-1, and there's a second gas for unit.
Yeah, either probably that or Cloak Banshees. It has to be something like that. It all depends on how aggressive BYOBKenobi gets with this 2-racks. If he gets aggressive early on with Marauders, he could potentially just outright win the game. It all just depends on what happens and what he wants to do with it. However, he's harvesting a lot of gas. So it all just depends on what he wants to do. He might do a stim timing attack, which I don't feel would be probably the best thing to do. Because by the time you do push out with stim or combat shield, typically the other player can already have a big enough army for you to deal it with. I feel you would probably want to push out with just Marauders or something. However, he is going for stim, so this will be a sort of a TVP 2-racks pressure, I imagine. An older 2-racks and TVP. That was a stim timing attack. Typically we don't see this anymore though because the stim timing did get nerfed a long time ago. SCV coming up the ramp trying to scout, probably won't see anything. Definitely won't see anything as there's a wall. The Marine also helping prevent that. And
now this may be something, I don't know if you've seen a lot of this in your games, but there has been a lot of elevator play in TVT using Hellions. And he is going for the reactored barracks after the second Marine, or actually after the third Marine, which would indicate that by the time the first medevac comes out, he could potentially have a full medevac's worth of Marines.
Right.
Which to me would indicate elevator play.
Right. However, Unit had just scanned and saw both the barracks and the tech lab researching and the factory. So Unit has full map awareness as to what is going on here. I still think he's making a medevac. You're definitely right. He's gonna go probably for an elevator play drop. Even though he did get that second gas fast, he's storing a lot of gas. Probably gonna follow up with some sort of gas play, maybe even mech. It just depends on what he wants to do. And it looks like that elevator play might just outright win the game. It's so strong because the medevac's able to heal the Marines while the Hellions deal the damage. And typically you won't kill Marines fast enough, really. And it's extremely strong to do. Particularly against Gasless Expands or something that revolves around fast expanding, whether it be Reaper as well. It's really strong to do. And that's probably what we're going to see soon. Although, well, he has the medevac fully loaded. He hasn't moved out yet. I feel he should have already moved out by now if he was going to. So we'll just have to wait and see.
I find it a little interesting. I was about to point out that Big Cheese was moving his entire force to the ramp, but he has since pulled them all back in. It looks like he may be aware of what's going on. I mean, will he be able to spot these Hellions?
Well, I think. Well, he already saw the Hellions because he had a Marine at the El Naga Tower, so he might be pretty aware of what's going on. However, an SCV is about to go into his base. He also just did a scan at the natural to see if there was any sort of expansion. Unit is now dropping into the main. Oh, but he already got Stim. That's right. Stim is gonna flip this off easy. The reason why this typically works is because the other player doesn't have enough DPS to deal with the Marines that are getting healed. But other than that, this was forwarded off extremely easy because of how fast he did get out the Stim. The Stim, of course, is allowing the extra DPS of the Marines, which means the Marines will kill the other Marines before they're able to get healed by the medevac, making the medevac basically useless, which the medevac is the key unit to that push. So now, unit's in a pretty bad position.
He does have a siege tank though, and he is going for siege mode. The only thing that's ever really stopped that kind of push, in my experience, has been that early siege tank. I mean, Cheese got lucky. I think he kind of metagamed this a little bit, where he had a feeling that's what was coming. If he hadn't spotted those Hellions, it may have just been a clean sweep. I mean, that was a lot of DPS to deal with. Here comes the drop.
And he has 2 Hellions, 2 siege tanks to deal with it. I don't know if that's going to be enough. It depends on if the medevac heals it. Either way, this is doing a lot of economic damage. Pulling SCVs now can't do this push, and the medevac's just going to fly away. There's no anti-air.
Yeah, this is going to put unit in a pretty tough position right now.
Absolutely. It's definitely not going to put him in a favorable position into the mid and late game. As we can already see, he's 20 supply behind, which is very, very big this early on into the game. The other player, Big Cheese, is now dropping Marines into the hidden corner, bringing Marines back in. Really should have probably healed them all up before bringing them in, though.
He's going to lose a lot for that.
So smart, dropping Marines onto siege tanks to do friendly fire splash damage, although he does of course lose them all, and now the SCVs can just repair them. However, there's been a lot of lost mining time with those SCVs being pulled up the line. Also, I believe he did lose his command center, and I don't think he canceled it, based off of what I saw at the natural.
Well, this is it's a pretty crummy scenario for unit right now, but it doesn't implicitly mean it's over. I mean,
well, it doesn't. I mean, he's playing mechs, so he's gonna have a much more stronger army as he gets later on into the game. But it's just all based off of how long it takes him to get there. And at this moment, Big Cheese is just constantly dropping him. Big Cheese has really got a high amount of multitasking from the looks of him. He's constantly kept his money low, constantly built workers, and he's constantly been dropping. He's playing really, really well.
Yeah, he pretty much lost that drop for nothing, but but now we see a Viking on the field for unit, which should be able to turn some of these medevacs around.
Even though he's been losing drops like that, and that drop really didn't accomplish anything, he's already up a base, and he's gonna have an orbital command before his opponent. So even though he hasn't been efficiently trading with those drops, he's economically ahead, and he can trade like that because of how economically ahead he is. So even though he's not quote-unquote countering, he's countering with economics rather than the quote-unquote counter system.
Now, one thing I like to point out is I don't really like unit's tank positioning right now. That sieging tanks on the ledge is only one scan away from losing them for free. I mean,
it all depends really. With the small number of siege tanks he does have, I agree with you, and that he needs them in a centralized location to have focused damage in one area. When they're spread out like this, one tank will fire and it's not going to do anything. When they're clustered together and you only have a small number of tanks, 3 tanks all together, they're going to do a lot of damage when they fire one shot and then they realize the tanks are there and they run back. However, he has a pretty large amount of Hellions, and it all comes down to how well this drop play works out. If those Vikings do scout this drop play and intercept it in time, it could go really well, but that's 4 medevacs, almost full Marines in all of them, almost, not quite. And we'll just have to see how it goes. There is no blue flame, I do believe. Yeah, no blue flame. So this is going to be a little bit of a rough position for current player unit.
It looks like he hasn't selected the proper, he's not on the right medevac yet.
Combat shield is also done, has finished. And it looks like one tank did go down, but other than that, not really much else.
And the drop continues.
Yeah, I didn't realize that medevac was still full. However, that tank does actually live, so it was almost useless. It depends on whether unit decides to repair it. If unit repairs it, that whole drop was pointless because it didn't kill anything. And of course you can repair it with mech.
This is one of the things that a lot of players tend to get themselves into, where they overcommit to drops that aren't as effective as they need to be. Where you start having these scenarios where, okay, you're doing damage, you're keeping him on his toes, you're on his side of the map, but what are you really gaining from that? And it doesn't look like BYOBKenobi is really falling into that, because he is macroing pretty well behind this. And his economically it is strong, but the question is going to be if he can find a way to engage unit where he can do significant lasting damage without just sacrificing his whole army.
Right, the economy is definitely the biggest advantage that BYOBKenobi currently has going for him. Unit's advantage is of course in his army. However, as the game continues to progress, his army is going to get less and less because of the economical advantage for BYOBKenobi. Now we see a couple of scans going down for BYOBKenobi just to see what he has. Probably a little bit nervous about what he could have, so he's of course scanning. Supply block happening for unit. Never a good position, just not finishing it. 3 supply depots on the way, so hopefully it won't happen again for him.
Well, it's only really 2 because that third one is sitting in the smoke, 80% complete.
Oh, you're right, yeah. BYOBKenobi on the other hand has just been macroing extremely well. His third base is done, his natural's done. He has, let's see, how many more SCVs? Almost a little more than 20 SCVs currently for him, and he's taking his third base right now. So BYOBKenobi is definitely in a much more economically better position. However, he stopped being aggressive, and I feel that's not what he wants to be doing. He should be constantly dropping. There's a lot of positions also in unit's base that aren't covered at all by siege tanks or Vikings. Yeah, so I feel he has a lot of opportunity to drop.
This big wide open area in the south of his natural, or his main, is just, it's such a big area to cover. And he could basically take 6 medevacs worth of Marines and drop them without them firing or being fired upon until they're all ready to go. And that's just a scary way to be.
Oh yeah, absolutely. You have to have Vikings there no matter what to really compensate for that. Other than that, not really much else. Another supply block happening for unit, not quite the best position. However, his macro, other than that, with his actual factories has been pretty good. Really smart play from BYOBKenobi, killing off these rocks so that when a unit does get a third base, he of course will be able to counterattack it with bio, which opens up just another attack path along with his drops that he will be able to do. Let's see, what are the upgrades currently for the players? Alright, so 2-2 is about to finish for BYOBKenobi's bio. +1 mech started, +1 mech started for both players in fact. Other than that, not too much going on. Looks like BYOBKenobi is having 3 supply depots finished to unsupply block him, which is good.
We have
2 more gas guys.
Yeah, we have a third coming down for unit.
Yep.
And we are seeing what is a pure bio army versus a pure mech army for the most part.
Well, I don't know. He's getting, excuse me, BYOBKenobi is getting +1 mech, so it makes me think that he's going to go into bio mech sooner or later. Just a question of rather when and where. But at the moment, he is definitely full bio. It's just confusing me as to why he's getting those mech upgrades. Or the mech attack upgrade, I should say.
It looks like he may have an interesting rally point, because a whole bunch of bio units came walking up to unit's third.
Yeah, I'd seen that. Also, no blue flame for unit, so a little bit of a mistake on his part, I feel. As blue flame is a very, very important upgrade in TVC, especially when playing against pure bio. And at the moment, BYOBKenobi just has complete map control. He's also starting a 4th base, and unit is still trying to get his command center over to his 4th or his 3rd base. So unit's already behind on 1 base. He's playing mech, which mech is good, but now we're starting to see that economical supply difference, where BYOBKenobi is 30 supply up on our other Terran player unit. A small drop happening in the main. Gets cleaned up pretty easily with Hellions.
But not before he takes out an engineering bay. And an armory that was being built.
The armory is a little bit of a big deal, but armor upgrades in TVT aren't really a big deal. Weapon upgrades for mech is the biggest thing. Armor upgrades are just kind of and they're not really great, typically because of how much more you benefit from the weapons attack upgrade. Still, engineering bay going down, it's not really a big deal either when you're playing mech. It's more so for missile turrets than anything else, of course. Gold base about to go down for BYOBKenobi. It's going to be very beneficial, of course, once he can get that working up and running. And it just looks like BYOBKenobi is just going to max out way faster than unit. Unit also not moving his army, and he's taking his third base. That's a very, very bad position to be in. You want to move your army immediately when you take your third base. And just like you said, it looks like Big Cheese is going to elevate her into the main in that spot you were pointing out earlier on.
And here comes the drop.
Yep, 4 medevacs, are actually 5 medevacs worth, and more to be on the way. His Vikings are out of position, so they of course did not intercept this drop. That's a huge deal. One siege tank firing on a couple of Marauders currently, and there's just Hellions to deal with this, and honestly, you need to have tanks to deal with this. This is a pretty high number of Marauders, also a high number of Hellions, but Big Cheese here is of course going to get the better end of the deal. Marauders against Hellions, Marauders will of course win. There's only one tank there actually firing. One Thor did pop out, however it's not assisting these Hellions, and the Hellion count has dramatically gone down for Unit. Very, very dramatically.
You may see him lose all of them.
Yeah, yeah, you're exactly right. He's lost all of them. And his macro is just getting extremely out of hand. He's having to deal with this drop, and he's having to multitask a lot. So it looks like Big Cheese is in a very, very good position to take this game right away. He's also getting personal cloaking, so probably going to be a ghost transition, maybe even a nuke transition. Not sure yet.
Now, do nukes, do they upgrade on any path? Like, do they upgrade on mech path or on bio path? Like, can you do more damage with a nuke if you upgrade?
No, it's always the same.
And this looks like this may just be the final push right here, depending on.
It looks like it will be.
With units, like you said, unit tanks out of position.
Oh, this is a bad position. He needs to siege up right now. He needs to siege up like 3 seconds ago. Ugh. I don't know. I don't even think these siege tanks aren't even in a high enough number for them to be able to even deal with this bio. He stems, and it looks like the tanks might hold the ground. It looks like the tanks do hold the ground. I don't know. If Big Cheese goes and drops right now into Unit's main, Unit's gonna have a very, very hard time defending that because his siege tanks are all the way out of position. His Vikings are all the way out of position as well. However, he's just gonna push into these tanks. I don't know if this is gonna work.
This may not have been the best option right here. We're seeing the strength of mech.
Yeah, absolutely. Even without the Hellions. And now he's gonna lose all those medevacs. It's huge. And even though he's doubling the supply of his opponent, that was an awful engagement. He probably knew it was okay too, though, because he was doubling the supply of his opponent. But I mean, Unit's not in too bad of a position, but he's still not in a good position, of course.
He's way behind. I mean, we're looking at 67 harvesters to 34. We're seeing just non-stop loss of supply depots and production facilities. I mean, Unit, if he all of a sudden goes up to, I mean, he's got a huge bank. If he takes a 3rd and 4th right now, but even then, he's just gonna get run over by these.
Yep, and this is exactly what I was talking about. Mech will typically counter bio, quote-unquote, if you play it correctly. But with this type of an economy, bio will efficiently counter mech because of how strong the economy of the bio player is. That's exactly what we're seeing here. Big Cheese is just mapped up Marauders, and Marauders will hard counter almost everything from mech. It's very hard to deal with. Scans off, kills off that siege tank, and it looks like this is about to be GG.
What does he even have in production right now?
Yep,
4 siege tanks, but is it going to be too late?
He had to rebuild all of his factories because he had lost them to that drop, which is a position you never really want to be in. He got caught off guard with his Vikings in that drop, and I feel that was probably the moment he lost this game. He's trying to make something happen here with the siege tanks that are spawning from the factories. However, that's just too much bio reinforcing, and it's coming in from all angles as well, even the low ground. GG.
And there it
is. Not a bad game. Just Unit early on had that drop fail, and that was really, really bad. But he also had that gas, and then he used it to transition into mech. But I still feel his second gas geyser timing was a little bit off, and it threw off his build a little bit. And then that combined with the drop failing just kind of put him in a bad position going into the mid game, and it only got worse from there.